to the architect in terms of what they want.
People will pay more, even as renters.
Some special elements about that project, if you want to walk us through, please. What is that one project that you might want to recall?
If you're investing in a property to develop to live in, sometimes it's difficult because they're emotional decisions that you're making.
I never thought of this way, that you can communicate your vision or requirement by telling a story to the architect. So Jean, welcome. Thank you so much for taking time and come to the show. I'm thrilled and excited to have you on the show. How's everything going?
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. All right. I just wanting to start with, talk about your journey and tell us about yourself.
Well, winter architecture creates spaces for people to live in that enrich their lives, whether it be a brand new build, multi-development houses, recreational holiday homes, or just simply wanting to update their existing home so they can stay living in place or age in place. So these are really big things that we help people with in Victoria, Tasmania and New South Wales. And we just really try and listen to clients and hear what they would like from their space and then see the opportunities and bring them to life.
Wow. Great. So tell me what made you choose this profession and eventually lead to start winter architecture?
I think I've always been, I guess, in love with buildings, which is really kind of strange thing to say, but even as a child I used to draw houses, and even living in a regional area I aspired to what I knew to be beautiful homes. And so I guess it's always been part of me, and I was very lucky to get into university, and I was very grateful to be able to go through, and I did architecture and construction management at Deakin University, and it was a fantastic opportunity to not only forge relationships with people who are now industry leaders, but also learn the skills that and also gain an understanding of what the misconceptions about gender and then also roles in architecture are. And it was really great to come in and start a new platform. So the business is structured around having, just a diverse range of people and backgrounds that enrich the character of the architectural fabric of Australia. So, culture coming into it, story about personality, emotion and feeling all come through. So that's really important to me and us. And yeah, I don't know if there was another profession or calling that I had, but I think that the winter architecture company that I've created hopefully helps people.
Yeah.
And that was my ultimate goal.
Okay. One quick rapid fire question. I know you have love and passion about architecture. However, hypothetically, if not architect, what you would be? If you wouldn't be an architect, what would be?
At one stage I thought I could be like a ranger.
Cool.
So yeah, I really love hiking personally, and
Right.
hiking with friends usually, but if not, on my own. And there's some beautiful national parks in Australia, and yeah, I think being like Wilson's Prom would be fantastic, or something like that.
Yeah, that's my favorite too.
Yeah, so just something that involves nature and landscape, I think.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's something I can see reflects in some of your designs that I have gone through. So tell me, you have been awarded multiple times. How does it feel like? Is that something that you plan for or aim for when you're designing or pursuing your passion? Or it basically comes natural?
I think it's just really fortunate that I've been able to present work in an environment that is encouraging of the types of work that we do. So it's a little bit off-centre for most practices, what we do. We really think outside the box and try and really create programs for clients that suit them and really investigate the site. So the awards, they're really great to have that recognition, and it's fantastic, but it's not important to me personally, because what really matters is the client and how they feel.
Right.
Because that's much more rewarding to me and timeless than, an award. Yeah, even though they're really lovely to have.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I don't like them, but it's also, there's a lot of great work out there, and I think we do seem to get really nice recognition. But I think the biggest thing is, like, after a few years and you see the client and they've still got the joy in their face and they still celebrate a moment that they experience in their home. I mean, that's important, and that matters to me anyway.
Yeah.
It gives me purpose.
Fair enough. That makes sense. So winter architecture is known for its minimal and sustainable design. How did you approach your vision or your philosophy when you were starting your firm?
Yeah, so it's funny. Sustainability means a lot of different things to different people, and to me, sustainability is not necessarily the same as what other people have. Mine is about buying once, buying well, so you're efficient with your own energy and time and resources. Obviously, we don't want any nasties in our products, but sometimes you can't help but avoid it. Like, the building industry is kind of tricky in a sense, because it all involves embodied energy and the making of things, which is unsustainable in some ways. But we do need to build in order to grow and to develop and to reinvigorate existing spaces so that they can last longer.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the housing stock in Australia they're built like cubby houses. So they're very porous and they suited a need at a time, but they no longer work. And the new rules and requirements for energy efficiency and thermal treatments of buildings are now coming into play more, like in Europe and overseas. And so that's encouraging, but it's also really marginalising, because it seems really difficult and really bureaucratic and really challenging, especially if you've got an existing house and you've only got a certain amount of money. So what we try and do is enlighten people in those processes and implement that. So in terms of sustainability, I came from the back of working in very large practices where I would often work remotely or internationally, and that caused me to learn how to use an online server, like as in connected to the main server. But then I learned how to do everything on the cloud, and I realised that you could operate that way. And I started working on my own and then collaborating with different interior designers or other architects, and then I established Winter Architecture. And then that was the whole philosophy, is bringing people in and they could work flexibly and they could work remotely, and it meant that they were project-based work as opposed to 9 to 5 in the office every day.
Right.
That was really beautiful for a time, because I was teaching as well as working, and I had all these beautiful people, and I had like 100 and whatever hours I had a week to put into it, because I was obsessed and passionate. But it all came down to being really adaptable and flexible, which obviously COVID has shown us that a lot of people could work remotely, and then people's practices have changed as a result of that. So during that time, we got a lot of calls and questions about how you do it, how you manage team. And yeah, that was really lovely. But I think since then we've learned a lot about systemization, and sustainability to me is being efficient. So the frustration about doing things more than once, and I do have tendencies to be a perfectionist. So that's obviously driven in branding and detail, and that comes through. And I feel like it's a bit of a disorder that I have, but it does matter. Like
Yeah.
it shows and you can see it. So systemizing those things, it makes it much more streamlined, and it's very important. But sustainability to me is being efficient and effective,
Yep.
and trying to do things once and considered instead of multiple times with multiple energy. I prefer the smoother wave than the jumpy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's my personality.
No,
So
fair
that
enough.
comes through in the running of the business, and sustain with sustainability. Like,
Yeah.
I love a lot of beautiful, sustainable buildings, but they're not all nice to live in sometimes. It's about, does it need to look like that? Whereas aesthetically, could it be really calm and
Right.
things like that? Yeah.
Fair enough. No, that definitely reflects in your work that I have seen. So yeah, kudos for that. I've built my own house about 5 years back, and people who's building their house for the first time, they have a lot of challenges in articulate in terms of communicating their ideas and a vision to the architect in terms of what they want. So what is the approach we should be having when we are talking to an architect in terms of to communicate an idea, requirement, and a vision?
Yeah. So it's not, everyone has that difficulty, no matter it, because everybody has a different personality type, a communication type. So it's sometimes really challenging to know what to say and what to bring to the table. But I think the best thing to do is be authentic,
Yeah.
be open, and just share any information you have that could be of assistance, but allow that designer to return the brief to you as in their interpretation, so then you can say whether or not that's in line.
Right.
And trust them to gauge it, and acknowledge that along the way, it's not just the beginning, it's the process.
Yeah. Right.
So if you feel like you haven't said everything at the beginning, that's okay. There'll be opportunities to change your mind or show more things or
Right.
see different things to implement. But it's important to be open about that with the communication.
Right.
Yeah. So, but if you're just starting out, the best place to start is to look at examples,
Yep.
see other designers or architects' work that you like, file it and then present it. So, yeah, some clients bring mind maps and things, which are really exciting, and everyone has a different way.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I was about to ask you probably a follow-up question saying that, okay, what sort of preparation we have to do as a client when we come to the architect, but you have already answered it, so thank you.
Yeah,
Very nice.
That's okay.
Cool. All right. Sustainability is a key focus in today's world, right? How do you integrate sustainable practices into your projects, and what advice would you give to homeowners who want eco-friendly homes? Let me probably go further and ask you this. I am madly in love with Mother Nature. I want everything to be organic. I want everything to be eco-friendly. And if that is sort of philosophy and mindset I have, what is the approach I should be taking when I'm talking to and communicating with an architect?
I think you need to express that when you do that.
For sure.
But also, budget comes into mind, because you can go completely off the grid,
Right.
where you have basically a power station set up in your own home on the roof, and then you have water tanks everywhere, so you're completely filtering everything yourself and oriented correctly, so you're not wasting energy, things like that. But I think the most sustainable and difficult challenge is actually modifying existing dwellings, which is what is going to be the next big thing in a few years, because there's not that many plots of land around.
Right.
And if you work in a particular area, you want to be able to be close to work, and the options available typically may be heritage overlaid or challenging scales. And so to modify those to be more sustainable is really difficult, but very worth it, because it adds so much value not only to the user but also potentially anyone who's looking to invest in those properties.
Right.
People will pay more, even as renters, for properties that offer, say, solar panels so they don't have to pay as much for power.
Fair. Yep, agree.
Or a beautiful bathroom that they can, if they need to be in a wheelchair, they can, or a kitchen that means they don't have to reach up high to get things, or these little modifications and considerations in design actually add so much more.
Yep.
And thinking about it from a developer's point of view, a lot of effort goes into maximising the floor plate to get the most yield, but sometimes it's actually restricting the floor plate that provides you more, because you can be more generous with the external areas to create oasis within and sanctuary within your homes or spaces that you're creating,
Right.
apartments even. I think the sense of peace that you can create with the non-human space is so critical, because we take up so much human space. Like, I need to have an extra bedroom that I never use, or a sitting room that I never use, or what if that was an internal courtyard directly opposite your bathing space that no one could get into? It's just full of plants. Like, there's that sort of generosity and I guess opulence of that.
Right.
But it will feed your brain and energize your soul as you're using those spaces and add value ultimately over time, whether it's your daily life, every moment, or it's, when someone else sees the space and engages and wants to purchase it eventually.
Right.
Yeah.
And is there any modern or recent techniques or materials that you have incorporated in any of your recent projects you want to share?
A couple of renovations and alterations that we've dealt with lately. We try and keep as much of the existing fabric as possible, and then we just refurbish the heritage windows so that they double glaze, that kind of thing. And sometimes we face existing heritage frontages that are just so worn out, and there's white ants, things like that, termites that will ruin the structure of the building, and it's really sad. But you can't. There's so much insulation you can throw at that, and it won't make it better. It'll still be drafty and horrible to live in. So sadly, we have succumbed to having to completely refurbish completely internally.
Yep.
But that's okay too, because it means that I think if it means that the main intention of the building can live on, it gives it another 100 or so years. And then that character creates the soul for the building, and then people will buy into that. Yeah.
Right. So I looked at one of your beach house project. Please remind me the name of the beach house, and also how did you come up with that project, and what was the process like, and what is so special, some special elements about that project, if you want to walk us through, please.
So the Bermagui Beach House was a high-level project for us. It came to us from a client who we'd worked with in the past on commercial projects, and they wanted a sanctuary for their holiday home, and they actually approached Cara Rodriguez to do the interior design, and then she became part of the firm at the time. And then we engaged Kelly Royal to do the landscape architecture. Mm-hmm. And then feels like a lot of people have been involved in this process over the many years that was in our office. But, yeah, it was a really collaborative process. So Jack Mounsey, who did the photography and film, was part of the design journey.
Wow.
Emily Von Moga, James Embry, Helen Pallett. We did everything from the concept design, development application, documentation, and we managed it on site on behalf of the client. So much so that we did all the furniture selection, purchase, and install. Mm-hmm. And the client had food and stuff in the pantry, so they just had to arrive.
Right.
So that house is very special. But in terms of designing it, we did spend some time with the client on a very long site visit, just really getting to know the site, hearing the stories the client had there with their family, and then what they wanted for the future and hopes and aspirations, and really just listening to the site. So hearing where the wind comes from, feeling the land, so that we can interpret the right places for the right things to create, different spaces need different environments to to feel right.
Right.
So that's where that came from.
So exciting. Wow.
Yeah.
So if you have to look back in your journey so far, what is that one project that you might want to recall that you had a lot of challenges with, but it taught you a lot of stuff at the same time? And then at the end, once you have completed it, you sort of sense the fulfillment. You sense and felt that it's like, wow, I did a really great job.
Challenges. Well, I mean, every project will have challenges. There's never been a project that's run smoothly. And as in, when I say challenges, these things are normal. Like rules can change. For example, Bermagui, the fires went through and then COVID happened.
Wow.
So there's lots of other kinds of issues that weren't necessarily about the building.
Sure.
It was about the way that people, the builders that worked on the building, their lives were impacted, and also travelling interstate with materials. That was supply chain issues, inflation, regulation changes, expectations around cost.
Yep.
These are all challenges that we face constantly, but we try and navigate the client and builders in trying to minimise the risk by alerting them to potential areas that could occur early, and then informing them in ways to either reduce scope or think differently about the space in order to achieve them. So I think the most challenging is just like managing the expectations overall.
Sure.
Because things cost money, and and being displaced, if you had to move out for a renovation, and things can be really hard emotionally,
Yes.
and there's a lot of time involved, as you would know from your own experience.
Sure.
So these things don't happen quickly, and there's a lot of people involved and a lot of processes. So I think it's just trusting in the professionals to help manage that will allow it to be okay. And know that you're not the only one. Like, everyone has issues along the way. There's always, but it's not the issues, it's the way you deal with the issues.
Yep.
So it's just listening, trying to see if there's problem-solving ways that we can resolve it, and then addressing those in that way. I think being open and understanding, so having a contingency, so some awareness financially of what you're prepared to spend versus what you can afford to spend in case something you really desire has to be in there, can go in, or something issue arises. So you dig a hole and you find something that you didn't expect. Or just the issues of time. People change jobs, or they change their mind. Sometimes we'll meet with clients who are just two people, and then halfway through the design it turns into 3 people because they've decided to change the family structure. So I think being open to seeing it as more of a 5 to 10 year process as opposed to the next few years is
Right.
really important. But it's also the value added to it. It's how you equate value. So if you're investing in a property to develop to live in, sometimes it's difficult because they're emotional decisions that you're making. But if you invest in it with a professional, you'll be making decisions that they're keeping in mind not only your needs but the needs of whoever might purchase it. And you'll find that if architects are involved in a design process, they will generally attract a higher price point at resale if that occurs. So you're never going to lose money because you've invested in a property that will likely be something that someone else wants. They don't want to go through the building process, so they're going to pay more for that property or rent more because they want that level of existence.
Right. Makes sense. I'll just quickly ask you, you mentioned the contingency is important when you are designing and working on a project. So what is the realistic percentage of a construction cost that we should keep as a contingency?
That's a really good question. I think that's more a question for you. But financially, it's about the risk.
Right.
So if it's just an internal renovation, there might be less risk because the factors are known.
Sure.
If you're digging into the ground or it's in a regional area, they add risk. If it's a heritage building, that adds risk. If you have desires for certain external areas, that will add risk. So I think in terms of the risk factor and the contingency, it will depend on the risk associated with the site.
Right.
So we'll often use a quantity surveyor who's a professional to measure the cost of the building, and they will often provide a buffer, a contingency sum that they would recommend for the build, and a design contingency that they would recommend. So they can be guided by industry standards.
Right. Let me throw a number at you. Would you say 5% of a construction cost is a safe contingency, right?
It does depend. It can vary. It can go anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20%, depending on the type of building, its location.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And the risk factor, as in the build risk, the time risk.
Right.
And this is not a penalty. This is just something to be aware of, because things occur. People change minds. Like you might paint the walls and go, oh, no, actually, I really don't like that. I want it to be something else. So you got to have something up your sleeves. Otherwise, you can't do the change.
Makes sense. Makes sense. All right, cool. One more thing was really interesting to know from a client point of view. What is more important when we design a house? Is it a material? Is it a color scheme? Is it a color palette? Is it a aesthetic of external look, the way building looks, or the floor plan? How do you prioritize when you have a limited budget or set budget? And how do any client should prioritize in terms of fulfilling their requirements and a vision for the house? Am I communicating properly?
Absolutely. I think every designer has different priorities. Like some architects would value the exterior very highly. Some interior designers would value the color scheme and decorators very highly. I think interior designers would value materials pretty highly, internally. Landscape architects would value.
Yeah.
So from our position, we try and not spread thin, but we try and tighten it up. So things like the floor plan are really important.
Right.
So getting spatial qualities right, where the natural light is, where the wind comes from, where the aspects are, is critical.
Yes.
It's not only critical from an internal perspective, it's really critical from an external perspective as well. It's like how your house or building sits in a community of buildings. So just often when we're thinking about our house, we're thinking about ourselves, and our egos go into that. Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry if that hurts to hear, but it's not only about you. You live in a city or an area in a community, and there's other buildings around you. And so it's how that building talks to the other buildings and sits amongst it.
Right.
To create levels of privacy and then openness so that you can interact in the built environment better. And there's obviously rules and regulations about heights and scales and overlooking. But one of my pet peeves is seeing overlooking screens everywhere, and when on a sort of semi-public space, like a living room or a gathering space, it seems like a bit of a miss. Like if you can open up in the areas you need to and have that landscape expanded, that's fantastic. If it's too small, you need to see the sky, you need to see the earth to feel connected. And I think a lot of the problems with modern contemporary building is we're tapping out of it all and enclosing it all in. That's where I'm saying that non-human space is so critical to well-being.
Right.
So, yeah, we live in a community, so you design for the urban fabric. So that another way of thinking about it is the story of the house being a journey. So you walk through the entry as a public zone, and then you get greeted through the house to the more lounge, maybe kitchen, dining, external, and then you go to guest room, bedrooms, and then even more private bedroom, main bedroom, and then private bathing. And you see how the line gets more and more private. that's how the building should open and close off in that order.
Right.
So it's sort of like you can see many people filter small amount, and then eventually no one can get to that last one. So it's like create layers of privacy through the built form, and then I guess that needs to read on the outside as well as on the inside. And if you're an introverted family, you need more spaces where you can sit alone amongst people. And when you're an extroverted family, you have large gatherings, you need grander spaces to come together. But what you want in a really well-designed house is that it never feels empty. You always feel comfortable no matter what the scale is, if it's just you or if there's like many people in there. So that's one of our things that we try and achieve, and that's through spatial barriers. And, yeah, I guess coming back to that idea of creating a sanctuary, creating calm, creating peace, so your mind can recharge and re-energize and then enter back into the world. Yeah.
Right. Along the same note, a lot of people, and I would say majority of people who are migrants, who are first home buyers, who are probably upgrading their houses but still have a tight budget. Question is coming from that point of view.
Yeah.
So if I have a limited budget to work with, right? Assuming I have a flat piece of land,
Yeah.
say about 400 square meter, I'm wanting to build a 25 square house, right? I just want to take your take as me getting into my house to live in with my family, with me, my wife, my two kids. What should be the priority when I'm again probably asking the same question but differently, but so that I can get a concrete step-by-step understanding in terms of I should be prioritizing. Should I be prioritizing to make a bigger space and bigger house to make? Or should I, as you mentioned, to focus on lighting, wind, materials, floor plan, with the limited budget if I have to play around to live a quality life? But again, I have a challenge of playing with limited budget, what I should be focusing on to get the maximum out of what I've got.
Again, it comes down to the way you use the house and what your needs are. And obviously everyone has a budget.
Sure.
Whether it's, 200,000 for a renovation or 10 million, everybody has a budget. Everybody has expectations. So it's good to understand what you expect from a home, but they have to be, you have to be realistic with yourself. Obviously, it's like when you go into a shop to buy food, you have to have a bit of a plan. You need to know what you're going to get. Otherwise, you'll spend too much money.
Sure.
So I think it's understanding what your priorities are. And, to be really honest with you, I disagree with the idea of buying a house with extra rooms or extra things if you don't need them just so that you can sell it one day.
Right.
I think that you can really read that in a house. Like you can see, if you walk into a place that has all these extra rooms that are never used and it feels really dark and the kitchen's just not quite right or something's wrong, you'll feel it, and whoever wants to buy it will feel it and always be that way. So you're better to just focus on getting the key spaces correct, and that will rein in higher returns.
Right.
It's also about the kind of neighbourhood you're in. So if they're family driven, often these bigger houses can mean people stay in their bedrooms longer. And so if you've got kids who are babies and then they turn into teenagers, they might never come out of their room.
Right.
But if that's important to you to have everyone together, then, then you would design the bedrooms just a bit smaller. So then they have to come into the area to hang out with you. Otherwise, it's just unbearably small for them to live. But if you're happy for them to stay there, and sometimes on occasions they might get married and continue to live in the house with you because they can't afford to get a mortgage yet.
Fair enough.
But it's particularly migrant families, family will come over to stay for a while, or they'll have family friends to study. So thinking about your house as a way to accommodate guests and how it can be flexible, or one day if you don't want to go into aged care facility, it could be that's where the carer lives. So you can have you can have more flexibility and longevity in the space you live, as opposed to thinking about, well, when I'm ready, I'll just move, because then you lose connection to your community
Right.
that you've spent years building up. So thinking about your home on a more personal level will be attractive to other people as well.
Right.
Because if you're going through these things, people will be buying in the same area because they're going through the same things.
Right. Right.
So the recipe is to follow your instincts, trust the site, try not to overindulge on the site,
Right.
just control it, but spend well, but don't do heaps. Don't spread thin.
Right. If I can ask one more follow-up question on that. If I'm a family-oriented person, and let's say money is not an object, right? And I'm designing a house for me to live in 400 square meter block, flat land. It's just because I wanted to keep other unknowns aside, just for illustration purpose, right? What should be my brief to the architect, or how should I communicate my vision? Because I want to spend a lot of time with my family. I want my kids or my grandparents or my parents to spend a lot of time together, us as a family. So what are the key components that you think we should be focusing on when we design the house?
Well, in that case, it's about thinking about how you come together and the feelings you want to create, and communicating that. Because it's not, I want 5 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms,
Agree.
a lounge room and a living room. It's not that.
Right.
Because they're all like a given. A car is a car, right?
Yeah.
Or is it?
That's right.
So it's not necessarily, the more expensive cars are sometimes the smaller ones. So it's not about the scale. It's about the energy and the way they worked and the way they space. Like, I think really clever design can be even in a small apartment refurbishment, because you can get a lot out of a space if you're using it on multiple ways. So if you get the lounge room that converts to this, that converts to that, it's so much richer and it's fun.
Wow.
And if you bring fun into it, then you're more likely to use it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I guess the ingredients would be what are the stories and the life moments that you want to try and generate? And that's how you strategically plan your house.
Right.
I want to have my son get married in the backyard and then have his wife live with us for a year with their baby so that they can afford to build their home, and I can offer that to them. Or I want my parents to come and live with us for 6 months of the year, but I don't want to be on top of them because the mother-in-law and the wife don't get along. And there's all these dynamics that you can design into the house, so then those things are avoided.
Wow. I never thought of this way, that you can communicate your vision or requirement by telling a story to the architect.
Because it's not about the building. We know how to build buildings.
Oh my God.
It's about what life you want in it.
Trust me, I've been working in a property industry for the last 12 years, and I never thought of this way. So I think it's a big learning from me.
Yeah, but it's the same with a couple who decide they never want to have children and they just want to write books. They need quiet. They need sanctuary. They need a room of their own to work.
Absolutely.
Or if they're an artist and they're single and they just want a beautiful apartment and they like cats or dogs or whatever it is, and they want to be amongst nature but they don't want a massive space because they don't want to clean it. How do you do that? And how do you modify it? So if they want a dinner party, they can do it, but it's not always 100 empty chairs sitting there when they're having their dinner. So it's creating emotional space platforms for you to function from.
Right.
And I think too, as I said, it's environment. So if you're in inner urban environments and you work professionally, other urban environment people will want to move into that home or rent that space.
Yeah.
So even though it doesn't have 5 car spaces and 4 bedrooms, maybe that's all they need.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's better that they need public transport or be near their work, or they can have a beautiful garden and they can have a fish pond or something. It's literally simple moments like that can impact people's lives more. Yeah.
Wow. Such a fascinating fact that I wasn't aware of so far.
Yeah, I guess it's more than money, because we're not talking about money. We're talking about emotion, and it's about creating experiences and memories.
Right.
So,
Wonderful.
yeah, and I guess this comes down to functionality as well, and sustainability, as in sustainability of your precious time.
Yes.
We only have a limited amount of time. And I met a client who had to close down their house every time they left. It took them about 10 minutes because they had to make sure all the doors were shut. They had to go up and check all the blinds were shut. Things like modifying their home so they could have it all on an app and they could press a button instead of going around and manually winding all these things. Just makes such a difference. Like that saves her X amount per day. Over the year, it's X amount per year.
Yeah.
And the mental load of that is relief.
True.
And that's what a home should do. If it's efficient and thinking properly, it should make your life better. And designers think like that all the time. We overthink everything. We agonize. We've done it for so long that we can see it.
Right.
So when we're meeting new clients, yes, they're giving us the recipe, but we're creating the meal. Like we're thinking about the experience.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I think I would like to share my personal experience. A couple of years back, I was walking in the morning with my friend, and we were discussing this, that why we have a lot of health issues these days, maybe because of hectic and stressful life, maybe food habit, maybe we are not exercising enough. What is it? And then he was sharing his view, I was sharing my view. And in a conversation, I basically shared my experience that if I'm in Australia, in Melbourne, I'm not probably more than a kilometer away or less from open spaces like parks or some sort of sports grounds, so be footy ground or a cricket ground, or some sort of aquatic activities. Whereas where I'm from, Western India, in Gujarat, you are never away more than 100 meters from the food that you can have or the nice food you can have, which is a good thing. But at the same time, if you look at how town planner and architect can play an impactful role on our lifestyle, and not just on our lifestyle health, the way we communicate, the way we interact, the way we socialize, the way we entertain ourselves. And it completely changes the perspective, how you live your life. So for me, that moment was sort of self-realization, and I can appreciate and respect as much that what is an incredible contribution of architects and town planners in our life. What's your take on that in terms of how it affects our lifestyle?
I think, the broader surroundings really do impact the way that you live in your community and the way you exist. And I guess it does inspire you or constrict you, depending on the boundaries around your home or where you live. I think people are starting to see that the houses or the homes that have aspect or connection to nature have more value in terms of price tag, but also from livability point of view. People want that.
Yes.
And so that's something to consider when you are purchasing or designing, is connection to that landscape.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. Just for homeowners, property developers, what are the key things to consider when they are hiring an architect or engaging an architect, I should say? What are your views?
I think it's really important to have a budget that you can afford, and be really honest about what you can do with that money, and have an open conversation with the client, the architect or designer that you're working with about that. And then often they will provide you with design options or a design that then you can work with them to get to your budget. But again, as I mentioned earlier, if you are talking about trying to create a certain atmosphere or environment, then the designer, if they're a really good architect, will be able to interpret that and come up with spaces that can accommodate those kinds of things. And it may not be how you expected. I think expectations or pre-understandings about what things should look like
Yes.
can work if you are directing a draftsperson. So if you know what you want and it looks like this, then an architect's probably not the best person. An architect's only really good, or an interior designer, if they can be more interpretive with if you're open to seeing the interpretations of the work.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like,
It does, but I want you to probably clarify this further. Consider I'm a layman. I know nothing about property industry, right? I wanting to build my house, or I wanting to build my investment property, or do a small development, right? How should I approach it when I'm engaging an architect, or whether or not I should be considering an architect or not? In what case, what sort of scenarios?
So often I've had actually clients who have they're builders, they've done a lot. They've actually gone to a draftsperson and for their own home, and they tried to do it. They didn't like it. And so then they came to us and we had to resolve it for them. So we had the draftsperson's design, we had what they wanted, and we actually modeled it for them in 3D and explained why it wasn't working. And the analysis is essentially orientation, relationships between spaces, space within a space to create layers. Then we also showed them what they wanted in terms of what it might look like in terms of cost, which actually shifted their whole direction into, instead of 2 levels, 1 level. So that was really good because it meant they can make decisions early. But we were able to adapt and modify by flipping and reorienting programs so that it worked with orientation, neighbours, and aesthetically from the outside, the envelope. And they were so encouraged by that, and it meant that it took that layer off them, because often that's what we're trained to do. We're spatial. We think in 3D. We understand these layers. Whereas if you just think about it from a plan perspective, or you've seen another example, it might not work in your context. So if taking it out of context, it doesn't necessarily apply, even though it should in theory, because it's exactly what you want. But it doesn't work because of the neighbours or the orientation.
Understood.
That sort of thing. So there's no recipe. So I think if you genuinely want to create a space that you feel enriched by, engaging an architect will mean that you can get the most out of your property.
Right.
Because they'll be able to see things that you can't see, and they know the rules that you don't know, and they navigate these things all the time. But then if it is a sort of vacant block of land and you've seen it recently up the road and you love it, then there is no harm in building exactly that. But what you will find is that if it's a special site and you really want to live there for a long time, you won't that won't make you happy for long, and then you'll have to find another solution to try and modify,
right,
or find a new home. So, which we've seen too. We've had clients they've designed off the plan like 20 odd years ago, and they've come to us because it's no longer thermally efficient, doesn't quite work. The kids are still living at home, and they didn't think that would still be happening. So we're modifying the existing houses to upgrade to that next level. So I think, architects add value in their thinking and their creativity with existing spaces, especially challenges around timeframes.
Right.
But if you have a budget that can't, you don't necessarily get those level of services, then other means are necessary, like as in draftspeople or interior designers as well. But the quality of a registered architect means that you can then have pride, and if you do resell, associate that with them, and it will add value to the next owner.
Right. Just following up on that one, I just would like to share one incident, an experience, I should say, a bit unfortunate. I had a client when I had my architectural visualization studio, 3D animation studio, who's a builder.
Yeah.
And we were doing this fantastic job for him, only three elements were introduced into the entire building, which was quite magnificent to see. Concrete, fluted glass, and timber. That's pretty much it. And it was magnificent. Moving forward, when it came to a building permit, for some reason, last few things they couldn't get off their architect. Things went into sour experience. They had to sue an architect and eventually realized that that architect wasn't even qualified architect or certified architect, and they never had their public liability or professional indemnity insurance.
Oh my gosh!
Right, and spent in hundreds of thousands of dollars while he was in holding cost, in designing cost, etc. when he was trying to develop this property. Unfortunate, but
So were
happened.
they a registered building practitioner at all? Like,
I have no factual data on that. However, what I'm aware of for sure is they didn't have a professional indemnity insurance of any sort, and they didn't have any certification in terms of practicing as a architect. Right now, I think this is like bit extreme experience or incident that I should say I'm sharing with you guys all. But if you have to sort of give some pointers, what are the things that anyone should be considering when they are engaging with architect?
I think one of the key factors that I would be looking at is whether their values resonate with you, which you mentioned earlier as well. Budget, obviously, location, but I guess personality as well is really important. Like with anyone you meet, everyone has a style or a personality, and that comes through with architecture as well. If it doesn't resonate with you, then that's never going to work. You can also check with the ARBV to see if they're registered architects. You can Google their registration number. They should provide that.
Sure.
Always sign a contract. Usually, the practice guidelines that I follow are that I use a standard form of contract, whether it's a national contract or a Victorian one, depending on the project. And it's usually with an association, be it the AIA, which is the Architects Institute of Australia, or the Archi Team, which is a small group of insurance providers for architects who provide contracts as well. This will make sure that you can see not only their registration numbers, if they have business and individual and interstate, that they also have their insurance levels and what they are at. So there are different levels that you can get for public liability and professional indemnity, and they vary depending on the scope of work that the architects work on, the number of people in their team, and then also the kinds of works that they're working on. So it's important to check those things. If you're not sure, just call the ARBV or just type architects, whichever state you're in.
Sure.
And they can guide you in the right direction. It's a bit like a builder. You never work with a non-registered builder, so you can call the Victorian Building Authority and check with them. Architects usually provide a gateway to other consultants, so you can select from a range that they offer you. You can also suggest your own, and then they would likely do a quality assurance check to make sure that they work. Your incident that you mentioned earlier seems really unfortunate.
Yes.
I can't really comment on it in terms of personal, but it sounds like that person was acting fraudulently, and that has caused a lot of harm. Which is really sad. So to avoid that is to just check in with them, make sure you fit with them personally. Every relationship is based on communication. So if the communication doesn't work, it will never resolve itself. It will always be there. So just trust your instincts on that one. It is a lot of money, so make sure you're aware of that. But they're professionals that ultimately everyone is trying to help.
Sure.
The ultimate goal is to provide assistance. So know that it's not an argument about anything other than, architects generally want to help you to get your budget on target. So that's what I would advise is to do a little bit of research, but also listen and watch or look at any information that they can provide you as well, because that will help to give you a little bit of a grasp about how they work and what their service could offer you.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
That's okay.
Right. So, upcoming trend. Let's talk about upcoming trend. How do you see architect and property industry heading towards in terms of new trends, modern buildings, modern techniques, materials? What are you seeing upcoming in Australian market?
I'm not really sure about that particularly, because we sort of aspire to international taste.
Right.
So locally, I think a lot of what's going on is very exciting, very artistic, sometimes flamboyant. But personally, we try and be much more realistic, as in timeless, quality, the mood that we're trying to create. So it's not necessarily white or green or whatever it might be. We just sort of feel, what is the feeling we want to create from this space?
Right.
Is it introverted? Is it extroverted? Is it bright, or is it dark? And these are the questions. And then the material palette kind of comes out of that. Is it about the textures? Do we want it to be easy to maintain, or do we want it to be really detailed and intricate and elegant? Or it's about how you interact with the space on a tangible level.
Right.
Coming down to even the scent. So the way that the room captures the landscaping throughout the home and that sort of thing. So in terms of trends, I think the trends are to do less but do that better.
Right.
Which means concentrated effort, concentrated funds on more thermally efficient buildings. The regulations are changing, so it's exciting. In the future, you have to make houses more compliant, so more like they would be a commercial building, like wider hallways, accessible bathrooms, that kind of thing, so that eventually people can age in place more. No steps up into the property, so thresholds. Thermally broken windows, it's a minimum standard. But all of these things create more cost. So as a developer or as a investor, you need to understand that what might have cost you, say, X amount is now going to be at least a third or if not double what it is now. And that's not just inflation. That's just because of you can't do single glaze, you can't not insulate. You have to do all these things now. So all the beautiful homes that we used to look at and think are wonderful, that can no longer happen. And so a lot of people are buying these homes and then they're like, what do I do with it? I'm so cold, or I can't run the gas cooktop because it's just, there's no more gas now because that's what's happening.
Yes.
How do I renovate it? And so they're stuck thinking, I'll just move. But you can't, everyone can't just move. You have to resolve the problems that exist so that they can be better. And sometimes moving is more cost effective, but actually sometimes investing in the property you have can be a better outcome.
Right.
Yeah. And it could just be a simple change like cosmetic, paint. Everyone knows how to do that. Lighting, like really quality lighting, but just less of it.
Right.
Thinking about...
Would you mind just elaborate a little bit more on that? When you say less lighting, it's better, but isn't it like it's going to take away the light from the house? Or I'm just trying to understand a bit more.
So, okay, this is going to sound horrible, but if you ever go into any large commercial supermarkets,
yes,
I'm not sure how you feel, but I come out there shaking because it's like you walk into a huge supermarket and you feel there's like fluorescent lights, there's no daylight.
Yeah.
There's often music yelling at you and there's lots of people and there's lots of interaction, but it's really huge and they move the items so there's no consistency, so you don't know where things are, so you feel a little lost. So you come out of that whole experience feeling a certain way.
Right.
So if you've got the wrong lighting, which is what that is, and the wrong acoustics, which is also what that is because they're trying to control the environment, you will feel it. So if you have an apartment or a home that has really lots of downlights and it's really bright light, if it's 3 a.m. and you turn on the lights to go get a water, you're going to be activated by that. You're going to be stimulated by that, and your body's not going to be tuned into its circadian rhythm.
Right.
And you're going to be out of sync with the planet, essentially, and your whole hormones and everything will go out of whack because you'll start to go into this different cycle. And that's just we know this, but yet a lot of houses still implement this kind of lighting design. So if you work with a lighting designer in a really high level, you don't necessarily need like 5 downlights in your lounge room. You might just have 3 wall lights, and they're of a warmer tone than, sunset-like, and you don't have to light up the whole house to have that atmosphere.
Sure.
It would create it psychologically. It changes your behaviors, and it elevates your mood and changes the space completely.
Right.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
And you might spend the same amount of money on 3 lights versus 5. But
Downlights,
you better,
No, fair enough. Makes sense. For aspiring architects, what is your tips for people who wanting to get into this profession or already about to finish being bachelor degrees and wanting to get into this profession? What's your take? What is your tips?
Yeah, I think there is we work with 3D modeling, so we use Revit, but there's lots of BIM software that you can use. There is a tendency to get really involved with those programs, and especially with renders, which are fantastic. But I think if you really want to I'm giving you permission essentially to work on your craft. So using things like clay, exploring things like sound studies, so like recording the environment so you can hear it and then interpret that, charcoal drawings, hand drawings, life drawings, simply sitting on a tram and drawing other people, or listening to communication so you can understand spatial proxemics. So you feel relationships and you can watch people and understand those dynamics. They're the lessons that will translate into the building that you create, the building works. So students often in this current environment are not used to working with their hands, like as in with a pen and a paper, but the skill on site that I have, which a lot of architects of my generation and earlier, is that you can have a notepad and you can just draw in 3D the sectional detail. So if you have that skill, you can think in that way, that is something money can't buy. So harness that skill.
Right.
Yeah, 3D play, physical creation.
Interesting you say that, because I met this fashion designer, very interesting person. He mentioned that he went away and studied anatomy for 2 years before he started his practice and started his own studio for fashion design. And for a moment, it sounded a little strange, but as you can appreciate, he said that if I wanting to create aesthetic looking outfits for my clients, I need to know everything about symmetry, anatomy, how people move, how their structure of their skull works, what lifts better, what doesn't go with what type of structure of your body postures, etc. So interesting insight that you mentioned, like if people wanting to get into the and becoming an architect, they should be playing with sound, they should be playing with clay, they should be work on their art rather than actual tool of a Revit or a 3D render tools, etc.
No, they will come and tools will change.
Right.
So in 5 years' time, we might not even be talking about BIM because it might be a different type of program that we're using, or we're talking about AI in different ways that might generate visuals. But you can never take the craft away. So imagine there's no computers and you're in the middle of nowhere and it's really humid. You have to just rely on your skills that you have at the time. And so that's the challenge, is to sort of communicate ideas.
Yes. Yes.
And it will, if you observe and you monitor, you'll learn, and that will inform your design.
Do you feel that AI can be a disruptor in architect industry or can be just another tool to enhance your work craft?
I think it's a little naive at the moment, but I think with the right user, like any program, it can become a really exciting tool because it saves you time. And anything that saves time in communicating is great. I love it. Yeah.
But do you think AI eventually can replace an architect?
No.
If yes, how? And if it's no, I would like to just put my perspective, right, and the way I look at it, and I eventually will agree with you. But an architect, when working on a design, on given any brief, right, given that we have a human capacity to perform on and to work upon, we may can come up with say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 drafts, right, within given time period, whereas AI can come up with 1,000 draft or iterations or 100 in probably 5 minutes if they have to, given that we give a right prompt. How do you think architect as a human being, as an artist, still has better edge over it?
Well, AI can drive a car and AI can write a thesis, I suppose. But I think that craftsperson, be it a builder or an architect, is still going to be required because they think on a human level.
Right.
So no matter what happens with AI, you still need a judge, so to speak. So the tool cannot be the judge of an experience of another user
Wow.
because it's not using the room.
Right.
It can comply with code. Anyone can do that.
Right.
But it's not that. It's the subtle layering and complexities that you can't just do. It's like a psychological evaluation of the surroundings, and there's so much more to that, which is culture and environment that AI can't potentially ever understand because there's nuances.
Right.
It can come up with something,
Yes.
but I'm not sure it would have the same spirit to it.
Fair enough.
That humanness that makes us so unique.
Yes.
And some buildings don't resonate with everyone. Like if you walk into a space, you know it doesn't work for you.
Yeah, that's right.
Or you know it does and you can't work out why. It's interesting because that's not a layer of, well, it's because the window's there. It's not just that. It's lots and lots of little things. It's the mini things that are happening everywhere that make that decision or that design direction possible. It's like with film. You can't articulate why you think that film is incredible, but there's lots of things going on in that film that make it so amazing.
Yeah.
And it's usually the human connection. So maybe it can happen, maybe I don't think it can. Because if you think about it, the great artists of the time, you know, their drawings or their sculptures or their work is just so profound because it's coming from somewhere inside the spirit, not just made.
Yes. Yes. Yep, I agree with you. I just wanted to go ahead and ask, in terms of, I think I'm going to probably ask one question which I think it's important for the topic that we have discussed earlier. What are the couple very good story or brief that you got from client in a past? You want to share something?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Well, recently I just completed a house, which is a renovation of an existing award-winning architect's house, and the client is an architect from the UK who's been practicing as an academic in Australia.
Wow.
He actually taught me at university, and then I taught for him at university at Deakin, and he also taught a lot of my staff members that worked at Winter. And yeah, that was quite a challenging brief. He came to us to design his own renovation.
Wow, I'm intrigued.
So that was
Tell me about it.
terrifying because, you know, obviously when you have a lecturer that you want to there's that hierarchy is there. So
Yes.
it's quite an incredible honor to be asked, but there's also an incredible risk. What if I get this wrong? What if I don't do it right? Or what if he hates it? Or what if they don't like it? And his brief was, we just need a kitchen and a bathroom. I've got a keg. I really love kegs. And we've got this really cool pool table. We can't quite fit it in the kitchen. And I think it'd be really cool because it's where it's next to the keg. That'd be great, but there's no room in this house. And it won a Robin Boyd Award in the 90s. It was an architect who did 6 in a row. I think that's how many. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. It's a little bit daggy because it's dated from the 90s since then. And the kitchen wasn't very good and the bathroom was pretty ordinary. And they slept on the top floor. And prime real estate on the top floor was this storage room that had a look over the MCG and all the city. It's a beautiful view over it from Cremorne. So we presented a scheme which was essentially, they're very night people. Their kids have gone and they've got a dog and stuff. And so they're all about having a beer or a champagne and relaxing. So what we did is we brought the ensuite upstairs and created a little shower nook that's mirrored so that they could have guests over and have the champagne in the basin and be out on the balcony. And then actually it's also a powder room and actually also it's an open shower that you can have a shower with looking out over the city. There's no doors. Pretty cool. That meant they didn't have to go up and down in the night to go to the bathroom. In the middle bathroom, we created it as a super sexy bathing space that's also a powder room. And it's got a huge sliding door so that you can have it completely open because it's only usually the two of them. Yeah. Why do you need a closed off room?
Sure.
But then if a guest is there, it's reeded glass, so then they can have that steel door shut and it's all very atmospheric and beautiful. And then downstairs, we actually created a very meticulously laid out and rigorously ordered kitchen that's all black, absorptive black, and there's a lot of plants. They love plants, so we've integrated bench seats and grown them up the existing building. And so the intervention itself was very small, like a footprint of, I think, 30 square metres or something, I'm guessing from memory. But the impact was enormous because it opened up the plan and it created all these diverse ways of living in the space. Yeah, sure, there was paint colours selected, things like that, but we actually amplified exactly what they already had and made it more personal. And yeah, they love it. And it recently won an award, and it was shortlisted in the Sustainability Awards and National Awards, and it received a small projects medal by the Archi team, and it also won the other award for that. And it was shortlisted in interior design. And I'm talking about these shortlistings. The team were up against this little project that was like, I want to say a couple of 100,000 only, was up against like train stations, national train stations that are multi-million dollars, and schools and civic centres, all these, and there's this tiny little house in it, and I was like, this is just crazy that we're even shortlisted, that we're amongst this. But it's a level of sustainability that's not necessarily about how much money you put into it. It's about the impact that can have on someone's life. And so, and he loves it. Obviously, we have a bond, and the team have a bond with the client and that home, which is great. Like, what more could you possibly want?
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that was scary to take on, but really, really lovely to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. You might want to share a brief from Sanjay, probably.
We have another client, Sanjay, who came to us with a brief that I guess connected him to nature, but also meant that he could meditate from any space within the home. And I think there's something really beautiful about that, because it's about being connected in each space. So that's a real challenge, because then how do you create a home that you can meditate in any room? But then also, how do the materials and how do the spatial arrangements allow someone to do that? So it's a puzzle. And there's lots of external factors that we have to keep in mind, because it's in an area where there's other buildings and multiple dwellings.
Wow.
So and levels. So the site's on a big slope. So it's about creating comfort, ease, longevity, and addressing these things at the same time. So it's about bringing them all together. And they're not easy to do, but that's the puzzle that we're solving.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Looks like you got a tough client.
Oh, not a tough one. We're excited to work with him, but them. But
yes.
I think, yeah, sometimes these briefs they're really exciting, but the challenge is worth it. Yeah.
When I I just would like to rephrase my vocabularies by when I say tough, it means like they giving you a challenge because they believe in a philosophy, or they may have a clear vision of what they wanting to obtain, but it can be very difficult when you as a designer has to come up with it while interpret what their expectation is and give them what they want.
I think, there's interpretation, meeting expectation, managing expectations, but then there's also realistic, like, can you build that, or can this happen? So bringing that all together is really good. But it's also really inspiring, that kind of a brief, because obviously my brain is churning with thoughts and exciting thoughts about how what we can see of the site that maybe the client isn't aware of or doesn't know, and how we bring that in, or how we exclude certain things. Because we are basically framing the existence.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the environment, or the stage for that to occur.
Wow. So far, what a wonderful journey talking to you, Jean.
Thank you.
I would like to probably end our conversation here by asking a last question for the day. And viewers, please stay tuned and ask us all the questions that you have for Jean, and we can do probably another round of Q&A. If you have any questions, please send us an email or comment down here, and then we'll have all the question asked, and she can help us answer all those questions. I would like to ask, in your journey, so you came so far, you got awards, you have designed a house for someone who has taught you the spirit of architecture. What's future? What's going on from moving forward? Where do you see you going and your firm going?
Yeah, so our practice is really relatively small. We don't take on many projects, but we do tend to offer, so instead of doing maybe a few projects a year that are all the way through, we tend to take on a couple of projects each year that are only short. So we do the vision package, which is essentially a concept only that then the client can take to a drafter or builder if their budgets are a little bit small. So we tend to do that for every client, and that helps to assess, well, what the goals are for the project, establish the budget. If you don't know the budget, this will help you to do that, and then put you on the path forward to either continue working with us, or to move on to a drafter or builder to get that dream realised, because not everyone can afford an architect all the way through. We love to help people. We love coming up with ideas. So this is a way of offering that service to clients.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking time, Jean. Thank you so much for all the valuable insights.
Yeah,
I would love to talk to you more about this beautiful piece of art that you are creating, and eventually creating many more to come.